So has this ever happened to you? You spend ages rough cutting all of your individual scenes. You've placed them all together on the timeline and you're excited to watch your long form edit for the first time. And it's a complete disaster. Now, it's not because the scenes that are bad, but because everything that happens between them doesn't flow. They feel like unconnected stories that don't belong together. Now, there's a very specific structural technique that fixes this, something rarely talked about in narrative editing, and it's called the jump-off point. Once you master it, your edits will have such strong narrative logic that it will feel like your whole film is elegantly stuck together with invisible superglue. So what is a jump-off point? Let's define it. Well, it's the precise moment in a sequence where one section hands over to another. Not by force, not because the clock says it's time, but because the content demands it. It's a logical, emotional, descriptive, or visual springboard. The point where you jump from one part of your sequence or scene or film to the next. Jump-off points can be at the end of a scene, at the start of a scene. They can be the launch pad into a new part of an existing scene. And they should definitely be at the end of every content section if we're intercutting. This is structural glue, not stylistic coolness. It's the reason we're going from the current thing to the next, the whole narrative justification. Jump-off points prevent that subconscious rupture we talked about earlier. They link different scenes or storylines together with invisible threads. They're the elegant justifications our cuts rely on. So, let's prepare the mind with some key questions. Why am I going to this new scene, new storyline, new juxtaposition? What is the logical mechanism that is going to get me there seamlessly? Let's dig deeper and study some actual examples. Now, before we go through these examples, don't just memorize the structure like a template. These are actual creative concepts, and so it's much, much more important to notice what these techniques are achieving from a narrative perspective. So let's start off with the most simple, a pictorial jump-off point that leads us from one scene or location to the next. A short visual clue that bridges the gap fluidly and pleasingly. Two characters in the back garden of a house. They're talking about their upcoming holiday and how they're feeling about it. As the conversation and therefore the scene comes to an end, we cut to a wide shot of the garden with the characters in the distance. So the camera then slowly pans up towards the sky to catch a plane flying overhead. The next scene starts with the two characters walking out of the airport in the new country. Now, that image doesn't decorate the cut, it justifies it. Crafted dialogue is particularly great as a jump-off point, a line of speech that sets up or echoes what comes next. A. He's never going to forgive me. Cut to the person in question, silent and stewing. B. Back in 2003, everything changed. Cut to footage from 2003. And C. Let me show you what I mean. Cut to an example or a reenactment. These are all verbal handoffs. The audience follows the narrative breadcrumbs. We're not just cutting, we're responding. Think of it as your teammate in a beach volleyball match, setting you up so that you can jump up and smash the ball over the net for the winner. Now, if you're enjoying this talk on high-end editing concepts, dear friend, then you'll love this thing that I designed for your cutting room. I call it the periodic table of editing terminology. 50 of the most used creative terms you'll find in a pro edit suite, all in a beautifully designed film poster. You can download it right now by clicking the link below and heading on over to insidetheedit.com. When you're weaving two or more streams together across time, across location or storyline, jump-off points are the only reason your structure works. Without them, intercutting is just distraction. It becomes a stylistic, not a storytelling necessity. Here's what great jump-off points in intercutting look like. You find the perfect moment in storyline A that raises a question, and then you answer it in storyline B. Could be dialogue, could be visual. You end a romantic moment with a character looking down and cut to the person they're thinking of in another scene. Or you create tension in one location and release it in another. That's the rhythm of cause and effect, of setup and payoff, of emotional logic, not just visual stylization. And great editors don't cut when it looks cool. They cut when it feels right from a structural perspective. And jump-off points are the tool to make it feel right. Let's say we have a fast action sequence in the next scene, but this scene is the calm before the storm. A character is talking about what may happen and how they may feel about it. Maybe they're nervous, maybe they're apprehensive or anxious about it all going wrong. Or maybe they're excited and really looking forward to it. We're going to need a strong jump-off point that sets up the incoming fast action scene. So how do we create a strong springboard that sets up and justifies the transition from one to the other? Well, we look for elements that could potentially create that short narrative journey. Dialogue, behavior, shots. Here's some different potential versions. Our character says, "I'm really nervous about this. The margin for error is tiny. It's deeply worrying." Wide B-roll shot of the character sitting down, staring worriedly into the distance. Final shot, cut to the close-up of a character as they take a deep, nervous inhale of breath. They stroke their face nervously and get up and walk out of frame. Here's a second one. The character says, "Man, this is so exciting. Everything I've planned for the last 3 months is going to come together tomorrow morning and it's going to be awesome." B-roll shots of the character at that location. They're happy, they're talking to people. Their body language shows that they're excited, wide-eyed, and laughing. They look directly into the camera and smile in the last shot and walk off. Now, through all of these examples, whether it be pictorial, dialogue-based, intercutting, they all give us a reason, a setup to go onto the next mini chain within the narrative. And that is one of the major ingredients in a strong story. So here's your jump-off point questionnaire checklist. When you're nearing the end of a scene or a section, ask the following. Number 1, what's the last shot of this section? What mood does it carry? Number 2, what are the last words spoken? Do they imply something? Number 3, what's the emotional state of the moment? Number 4, what is going on in the shots at this point? And number 5, does this moment invite a response, a contrast, a continuation? If the answer is yes, you're going to need a strong jump-off point. If the answer is no, go back to the start of the list and ask yourself those questions again. Jump-off points aren't just technical tricks we put down on our timelines. They are narrative and logical scaffolding that hold up the strength of connected scenes and acts. It requires us to feel the structure of our film, not just logically, but emotionally, rhythmically, and spatially through the eyes of the audience. We must start thinking of jump-off points as this invisible architecture. They aren't just insert B-roll here. They are calculated transfers of narrative power between one moment and the next. They are justifications of going from one place to the next. Sometimes they're scripted. Often they're found in the edit. But our job is to spot them, build them, polish them, and position them for maximum power. So how do we know when we've nailed it? Well, we'll definitely feel it when we're watching the sequence back. It will have a sense of inevitability, a transition from one stream of content that hands over seamlessly. A viewer won't even notice that transition because they're already halfway to the next story beat. We didn't force it. We let the scene decide through the retrospective analysis of all of the thoughts that we've talked about in this episode. And that really is the beauty of jump-off points. They are the entrance to the narrative ladders that we use to climb between different storylines and scenes. And when we master them, everything else becomes easier. Intercutting, structure, even pacing. Because the story is no longer a series of unconnected events. It becomes a sequence of perfectly structured and interconnected mini sequences. So here's the final thought for this episode. Many editors focus on what happens inside the scene. They obsess over shots, music, dialogue, coverage, and that's all essential. But we cannot forget the narrative and structure layer on top of individual scenes and sequences. That level of mastery so often lives in between the scenes, between the storylines, and in those invisible handovers from one thing to the next. Jump-off points are the pressure valves of long-form editing. They give us rhythm, they give us logic, they give us trust from the audience. And once we see them, we can never unsee them. Thank you for your kind attention, dear friend. My name is Paddy Bird, and this is Inside the Edit.